Welcome to the Geek Scene. My second series review for Doctor Who is here. Series 2 is a very mixed bag when it comes to Doctor Who series. It has some absolutely fantastic episodes, but boy are the weakest episodes bad. We have a lot to talk about in this review, so let's get right into it. Series 2 is a weird one for sure when it comes to the stories. This series is looked back on fondly by many fans as the 10th Doctor's first series, but how good are its stories? This series definitely has some amazing episodes, with School Reunion, The Girl in the Fireplace, The Impossible Planet 2-parter, and The Army of Ghosts 2-parter coming to my mind personally. Despite the presence of these episodes, we also have New Earth, The Idiot's Lantern, Love and Monsters, and Fear Her, which are all episodes I consider to be bad. There's also Tooth and Claw and The Rise of the Cybermen 2-parter, which I don't think are bad, but they aren't particularly impressive. I always forget that Tooth and Claw even exists, honestly. School Reunion is a great connection to Classic Who, and I'm sure Classic fans thoroughly enjoy seeing Sarah Jane Smith come to New Who. I have only seen bits and pieces of Classic Who, and I definitely didn't know who Sarah Jane was when I first saw this episode, but the way she is introduced and how the Doctor interacts with her really gives you a sense of who this character is, or who she is to the Doctor at least. I absolutely adore The Girl in the Fireplace. The concept of this story is really interesting to me. I love the comedic moments, and I don't mind the romance. I really like Renette as a character, and the ending of the episode when she dies before the Doctor can take her to see the stars is just so heartbreaking to me. The Impossible Planet 2-parter has great character development and some really interesting themes, and it is one of the few Doctor Who stories to actually creep me out. I don't scare easily, and this isn't a scary episode, but more of a creepy one, if you know what I mean. It really unnerves me. The Army of Ghosts 2-parter is a fantastic way to end a series, and it pulls out all the stops with Cybermen and Daleks. This story also has a super sad ending with Rose being sealed into the parallel world at the end of Doomsday. I think a lot of the episodes I just mentioned are some of the best New Who has to offer, but we can't forget about the absolutely abysmal stories that take up some of the spots in this series. New Earth is such a weird opener to a series. The plot is literally cat people growing artificial humans and basically torturing them in order to find cures for diseases. I can appreciate the moral dilemma here, but it doesn't make up for this dumb plot. I also don't understand the decision to bring Cassandra back, but I do like her storyline, however weird the body switching stuff may be. The Idiot's Lantern is just extremely cringy, and it's not bad enough to fall into the so bad it's good category. I do like the part at the end where the 10th Doctor climbs that tower thing and goes full on action hero though. Love and Monsters is an infamously bad episode of Doctor Who, but at least it's not boring. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first Dr. Light episode in New Who, and I think that was an interesting direction to go in. If you didn't know, a Dr. Light episode is an episode that barely features the Doctor and instead focuses on characters that are usually random people we don't know. I can't say I really liked the episode, but I will sit there and laugh out loud whenever the monster comes on screen, so that's something. Fear Her just doesn't feel like it goes anywhere. It is probably one of the blandest, most boring episodes of New Who. I think it could have been much better because I actually really like the idea of bringing things to life by drawing them, but it's a shame how it was executed. I am also not a fan of the series-long Torchwood arc. It's less of an arc and more of just a random sprinkling of Torchwood name drops before we suddenly find ourselves actually at Torchwood. It doesn't really do anything for the story when we finally arrive at Torchwood in the Army of Ghosts either. It just feels like the setting of the story and nothing more. Sure, the people at Torchwood supposedly let the Cybermen through to this universe, but just kidding, they didn't. The Cybermen just followed the Daleks' void ship through the rift, so literally what is the point of the Torchwood storyline? I just hate the series-long arc in Series 2. This series feels very loosely connected and doesn't feel as well thought out as Series 1. Overall, this series is very hit or miss when it comes to stories. When it hits hard, but when it misses by a long shot. When it comes to character development in Series 2, it's not quite as prominent as I would have liked, but there are some parts of this series that set up for development in future series. This series is a good one to look back on when studying the 10th Doctor's character in particular, because he is much more reckless and carefree in this series than he is in his later ones. If we are looking at Series 2 and Series 2 alone, however, I don't see much there. There isn't much character development, especially for Rose. Rose's character took a direction in this series that a lot of people weren't too crazy about. I agree somewhat with that because Rose was just kind of annoying to me in this series, and that wasn't really made up for with good character development. Her character didn't really go anywhere other than just becoming more annoying. I was never that much of a Rose fan, but I at least liked her in Series 1. In Series 2, however, I didn't like her. I personally don't like the 10 Rose romance. I don't think the decision to make the Doctor-companion relationship romantic was ever a good idea. It's just weird to me. Rose's constantly lusting after the Doctor just really pisses me off. She's extremely jealous, controlling, selfish, and overall just a really obnoxious character in this series. She was a pretty solid character in Series 1, but she really lost me in this series. The Doctor does have some substantial development in this series, or more than Rose at least. School Reunion has some great moments for the Doctor's development when he starts realizing how much he truly affects his companions and how much he can absorb their lives. His conversations with Sarah Jane really show this off because she starts talking about how she waited for him when he left her and how much her life revolved around him. The Doctor then starts thinking about how much Rose's life revolves around him. Rose also takes notice of this and asks the Doctor if he will leave her behind like Sarah Jane. The Doctor responds to this by reminding Rose that she is human and he is a Time Lord, and while she can spend the rest of her life with him, he will outlive her and will have to watch her wither and die. He really thinks about how Rose has gotten to a point that she would choose him over her family, and she has become so attached to the Doctor that she is stuck in a life like his and can never have a normal human life if they carry on like this. He puts this out of his mind for most of the series because he obviously doesn't want to think about having to watch Rose die, but he is forced to come to terms with this in the series finale when Rose actually has to make a choice between her family and the Doctor. She chooses to stay with the Doctor and never see her family again. The Doctor asks her if she's sure, saying that she can never ever see her mother again. But after she says yes, he becomes happy because that is secretly what he was hoping to hear. The Doctor is a bit selfish in this way, but this paves the way for some great development in the 10th Doctor's later series. Overall, this series is not the best for character development, but it does have its moments. I think the acting in Series 2 is pretty good. Billie Piper as Rose has gotten a lot better since Series 1, I think. She was already good in Series 1, but she's more comfortable in the role by now, and it shows. I think her chemistry with David Tennant is great as well, and it's really fun to watch them play off of each other. Piper really sells the heartbreak that Rose experiences in Doomsday, and it truly feels devastating. David Tennant immediately fits the role of the Doctor in this series, which was very important to pull off since this was the first time the Doctor regenerated after the revival. He is very charming and entertaining to watch as the Doctor. This series also has some pretty good guest actors, such as the guest cast in the Impossible Planet 2-parter. The music in this series is great as always, with the music in The Girl in the Fireplace and Doomsday being my favorite scores. Murray Gold is very talented at portraying emotion through music, which is shown by his work in Doctor Who. Dated special effects aren't as much of a problem in this series as they were in Series 1 because less CGI was used, and when they did use it, there were workarounds to make it less noticeable. For example, the horrible CGI of the werewolf in Tooth and Claw isn't as jarring as it could have been because it is constantly kept in the shadows and you don't see it unless it's necessary. This worked even better because this particular episode was well suited to a little bit of horror, so keeping the monster in the shadows was good for that. I would guess that the show was given a little bit of a bigger budget for this series after the success of the previous one, and I think that you can see some slight improvements in the overall quality of the episodes in comparison to Series 1. Overall, I think this series is decent. It pales in comparison to Series 1 as a whole, but Series 2's highest highs are better than Series 1's in my opinion. This series is just dragged down tremendously by its worst episodes that are just dreadful. I will say that even the worst episodes have some kind of redeeming factor. They all entertain me in some way, even if I'm just laughing at how bad they are. Barely any of them fall into the painfully mediocre category for me, because at least the bad ones make me laugh at how bad they are. That's one of my favorite parts of Russell T Davies' tenure as showrunner. His bad episodes were at least entertaining, not super bland and boring, which is something I miss now with the current showrunner. This series is astoundingly inconsistent with some incredible stories along with some terrible ones, but it was a fun one and I will always look back on it fondly. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my second Doctor Who series review, and I hope you'll consider sticking around and subscribing. Please leave a like to let me know you enjoyed this video and comment your thoughts on my review. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you'll come back next week when I rank all of the episodes in Series 2. Bye!